In the 1950s, Cuba was thriving with American tourists. It was a place that was easy to get to, especially from Miami, making weekend travels a reality for many. Cuba started getting away with drugs and sex tourism. Castro wanted to get rid of this image and lifestyle in Cuba, and as a result, tourism came to an end for a few decades. Tourism had been proven to be economically beneficial, so in the 1990s, Cuba invested $3.5 billion into tourism with the goal of keeping drugs and sex tourism away. While there are many ecological problems that can come from tourism, Cuba is trying to stay ahead of it. With previous bad experiences from tourism, Cubans are trying to keep their land as maintained as possible. Cuban tourism is incredibly new to this generation of Americans. Prior to 2014, there was a travel ban on U.S. citizens that restricted them from traveling to Cuba. Former President Obama removed that ban, but 2 years later, President Trump installed 12 approved reasons that are acceptable for Cuban travel. Regardless of the restrictions, traveling to Cuba is of high interest. While in Havana, there are many things to see and do. The Museo de la Revolucion is a former presidential palace and very informative on all things regarding Cuba's political past. El Morro was once a prison and is now a destination must. It is the perfect place to watch the sunset, and if you're around at 9 p.m., you will be able to witness the daily ceremonial cannon being fired. Plaza Vieja, or Old Plaza, contains everything from museums and galleries to outdoor cafes. This plaza has turned into a tourist destination, but is definitely a place worth checking out. The University of Havana has been around since 1728 and has roughly 60,000 students. Its youth are very invested in the political and social aspects of today's culture. Many protests take place, so if you are lucky, you could get the chance to see one. Old Havana is surrounded by the original city walls and contains 5 plazas. Each plaza has its own architectural style. Old Havana is home to one of the oldest cathedrals in the Americas, as well as some of the world's oldest stone buildings still standing. Within the Caribbean, Cuba is the #1 location for cultural tourism. While you are exploring the wonderful island, there are many ways you can gauge in its culture. The most important, in my opinion, is the food. As said by many, Cuba has amazing street food from pork hamburgers, coconut pies, guava milkshakes to Hawaiian pizza. There is so much to try. Live music and dancing are popular and one of the many things that originally attracted tourists to Cuba before tourism came to a halt in the 1950s. Today, it is still a relevant part of their culture and is highly encouraged to see a live show while you are there. Cubans love their culture deeply and are more than excited to share it with you while you make your visit, so make sure to talk to a local so you can learn as much as you can about Cuba.